to break through the maritime blockade pressure from the United States. China has joined forces with 5 countries to build a 10,000-kilometer-long strategic railway. Now, this railway has officially opened. This May, a freight train fully loaded with goods departed from Xi'an, China, and successfully arrived at Iran's Aplin dry port in just 15 days. Half a month later, the same train was loaded with 50,000 barrels of crude oil and returned to China. Compared with traditional maritime shipping routes, this railway is safer and saves much more time. But for the United States, this is definitely not good news, because it means China now has the capability to bypass key straits such as Malacca, Hormuz, and Suez, and directly carry out energy and trade exchanges with countries in the Middle East and Africa. What's more important is that China intends to use this railway to link up the entire Eurasian continent, creating a massive overland transport network that stretches from East Asia through Central Asia and the Middle East and ultimately extends to Europe. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what is the true strategic significance behind this railway? How exactly does it bypass the US blockade? And how will China's step-by-step push for its grand Eurasian plan unfold? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. The Strait of Hormuz lies between the Arabian Peninsula and Iran, with the Persian Gulf to its west and the Gulf of Oman to its east. For the countries along the Persian Gulf, this is practically their only outlet to access international maritime trade. Looking at the map, the strait is shaped somewhat like a V, and at its narrowest point, it's less than 30 kilometers wide. But because of its geographical importance, it is recognized worldwide as one of the most critical energy corridors. According to 2024 data, about 20 million barrels of crude oil pass through here every day, nearly 1/5 of the world's daily liquid petroleum consumption. Any crude oil exported by sea from the Persian Gulf must go through the Strait of Hormuz. And it's not just oil. Roughly 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas shipments also have to cross this passage. That's why Western media often refer to it as the lifeline of the sea. Although the Strait of Hormuz is located in the Middle East, the United States has long stationed carrier strike groups, cruisers, and destroyers in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Officially, they claim it's to safeguard international shipping lanes, but in reality, it's about keeping a firm grip on global energy transport. This military presence itself creates a potential threat. If the Middle East falls into turmoil, or if the US one day decides to restrict oil tankers heading to Asia, it absolutely has the capability to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, this control isn't exclusive to the United States. When necessary, Iran has also responded with hardline measures. For instance, in June 2025, Tehran's parliament urgently passed a resolution concerning the Strait of Hormuz. The report made it clear that if needed, Iran has the right to take decisive measures to close the strait, with the final authority resting with the National Security Council. But here comes the crucial question. If one day the Strait of Hormuz were to be closed or blockaded, just how much of an impact would that have on China? As one of the world's largest oil consumers, China imported nearly 550 million tons of crude oil throughout 2024, of which 44% came from 6 Gulf countries in the Middle East, totaling more than 240 million tons. Among them, Saudi Arabia was China's largest crude oil supplier, exporting about 78 million tons to China in 2024 alone. Ranked second was Iraq, with exports close to 65 million tons. But the problem is, once this crude oil leaves the Middle Eastern countries, it must pass through the Strait of Hormuz to reach China. If this key passage were blocked due to regional conflict or military action, then crude oil from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE, as well as liquefied natural gas from Qatar, would almost have no way to smoothly arrive in China. For China, although it holds a certain scale of strategic petroleum reserves, they would last only a few months at most. Once the inventory is used up, it would still need to purchase oil from other regions, but at that time the prices would be much higher. Immediately, the global energy market would tighten rapidly, and international oil prices would certainly soar. Of course, China's oil tankers are not absolutely limited to only passing through the Strait of Hormuz. They can detour around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. But the entire journey of this route would increase by nearly 10,000 kilometers, and the transportation time would take at least 2 to 3 more weeks. Even if China could still purchase oil, the cost would rise significantly. But now, after 12 full years of construction, China has finally built a strategic railway spanning 5 countries, directly shattering the maritime hegemony that the United States has painstakingly maintained for more than 40 years. What exactly has happened behind this? As everyone knows, as early as 2013, China proposed the Belt and Road Initiative, and Iran's geographical location happens to sit right at the connecting point of the Eurasian continent, so it naturally became a key partner for China. From that time on, China and Iran began discussing how to promote railway connectivity, and around the same period, they also launched the China-Iran Railway Project. By 2016, China and Iran once again reached a preliminary consensus on railway cooperation, and the first test train, Yiwu, Tehran, successfully ran through. This route was about 10,399 kilometers long, with a transport time of 18 days. However, at that time, this train was more symbolic in nature and did not yet have the conditions for regular operation. The real turning point for the China-Iran Railway came 5 years later. In that year, China and Iran signed a comprehensive cooperation agreement lasting 25 years, with a total value of up to $400 billion. The scope covered multiple key areas such as energy, infrastructure, and trade, including the advancement of the China-Iran Railway. In order to make this project truly take shape, railway officials from China, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Iran met frequently that year, specifically studying how to resume and open the full-length railway, and step-by-step resolving technical difficulties such as non-standardized track gauges. It was not until June 2024 that Iran completed the construction of the Rasht Caspian Railway section, laying a solid foundation for connecting with Turkmenistan. Finally, on May 24th, 2025, the China-Iran Railway was officially fully opened and put into operation. According to the plan, this railway extends more than 10,000 kilometers, passing through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, running across the entire Central Asian region, and ultimately reaching Tehran in Iran. In June of the same year, a freight train fully loaded with goods departed from Xi'an, China, and after 15 days successfully arrived at Iran's Aplin dry port. At the completion ceremony of the first phase of the Aplin dry port expansion project, this direct train from China officially reached port. Half a month later, this train was again loaded with 50,000 barrels of Iranian crude oil and returned to China at the same speed. Here comes the question. What exactly does the opening of this railway mean for China? In fact, once this railway is opened, it means that when China imports oil from the Middle East, it can completely bypass the Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf, and the Strait of Malacca, and directly and safely transport the oil to the domestic market. In the past, it took Iranian oil tankers about 30 to 40 days to reach China, but now it only takes 15 days by this railway. What is more important is that during transportation, there is no need to worry about extreme weather, nor about piracy affecting the delivery time. In special times, I think stability and security of transportation are more important than anything else. According to the current scale, through this cross-border railway, Iran can transport 600,000 tons of oil to China every month, and China has already stated that in the future it will expand this scale to 1 million tons. For Iran, This means much less concern when facing U.S. sanctions on energy. However, there's an even more crucial impact, which is the change in the settlement method. As everyone knows, the US dollar has long firmly dominated global trade settlements. With the SWIFT system in its hands, the United States controls the master switch of global financial transactions. Whoever does not obey, the US can impose sanctions at any time and kick them out. Because of sanctions, Iran has faced almost constant obstacles in international settlements over the past decades. Although some countries were willing to buy Iranian oil, once they thought of US sanctions, they could only back down. But in the energy trade of the China-Iran Railway, the situation is completely different. In more than 80% of transactions, settlements can be made directly in renminbi and Iranian rials, completely bypassing the SWIFT and US dollar clearing mechanisms. For Iran, this is the first time in decades that it has been able to achieve local currency settlement plus physical flows in large-scale energy trade. And when oil trade is deeply tied to railway transportation, the US dollar's core status as the settlement currency for oil is naturally subjected to a real challenge. But according to my understanding, the planning of the China-Iran Railway goes far beyond this. After the train arrives in Iran, the route will split into two main directions. One will extend south to the Persian Gulf, which in the future can connect with the transportation systems of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, the major oil-producing countries of the Middle East, effectively opening up a brand new artery for energy transport. The other will extend westward, crossing Iran itself, stretching to Turkey, and finally connecting to the heart of Europe. Many analyses believe that this westward route may in the future replace the Red Sea, Suez Canal shipping lane, and may even become a brand new strategic corridor across the Eurasian continent. By then, a single railway will span nearly 10 countries, and trade and exchanges among them will become more stable and efficient, promoting the gradual formation of a closer Eurasian community. For decades, the reason why the United States has been able to maintain its dominant position in the world is largely because of its global network of military bases and powerful fleets. By controlling key waterways and transport nodes, the U.S. has almost completely held the initiative in global shipping in its own hands. Places such as the Strait of Malacca, the Red Sea route, the Suez Canal, and the Panama Canal are precisely the choke points through which the United States has maintained its advantage. But now, the situation is beginning to change. With the continuous emergence of overland routes like the China-Iran Railway, cracks are starting to appear in the maritime hegemony that the United States has relied on. At the same time, China and Brazil have also announced plans to advance a mega project spanning the entire South American continent, the Two-Ocean Railway. This railway will connect Peru's Chanque port on the Pacific coast with Brazil's Ilhéus port on the Atlantic coast, with a total length of about 6,500 kilometers. In the future, once this so-called steel artery is fully completed, it will completely rewrite the pattern of global logistics, breaking the transportation bottleneck formed by the Panama Canal over the past decades. And by that time, all of America's blockades will already have become meaningless for China.so. What do you think? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.